Welcome to the Automate and Grow podcast, brought to you by Cloud Advisory.
Another episode of the Automate and Grow podcast, and my guest today is Gus Van Dender from Cnnected. And Gus and I connected on LinkedIn, and he's here because I was really interested in a platform that he's working on. So thanks, Gus, for joining me. I'm glad we got to finally jump on.
You're welcome, man. It's an honor to be here. I love talking, especially on podcasts.
Well, I really am excited about what you're doing, because this is something where I've kind of resisted it. And I know that you've recently started your company up around one particular platform that I really want to learn about. So I appreciate you jumping on and acting as an expert in this area.
Yeah, of course. Happy to share and answer all the questions, because this is like you said, it's something new. But I know in a couple of years, everybody's going to know what this is and what this means. So we're kind of on the forefront of this. So it's all about education and getting the word out and getting this into as many companies as possible.
And sorry to clarify, because I didn't even say it, but you've started a company based around the Facebook Workplace. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's called Workplace, yeah. So it started off as I believe they called it Facebook for Work, but then they took out the Facebook because it kind of has I won't say a negative connotation per se, but it has some story around it. But basically, in a nutshell, what it is, it's Facebook's enterprise platform, right? So they figured that, hey, in our personal lives, we are so connected through social media, right? We're constantly on Instagram, on Facebook, we're connecting, we're talking, right? And then you walk through the doors of your office and all of a sudden we're still using faxes and email and all these old school, right? Believe me, there are people that still use fax machines.
Wow, that's great.
And yeah, and it's, so what Facebook envisioned was, we want to create that same experience inside of the workplace. So it's a seamless transition, right? So now what they did was they took the Facebook platform, something that almost everybody knows how to use, 2.3 billion users right now.
That's incredible.
2.3 billion, yeah. So then they're like, okay, we're gonna create a similar experience, same UI, so you don't have to learn anything, but we're going to make it so we can actually use it and it's useful inside of the work environment. So now they created a platform that is very unique in the sense that it is geared towards collaboration and community building, just like we do on Facebook or Instagram or in our personal lives.
The difference being that it's just people you work with or customers.
Correct. So if you want to visualize it, imagine you take Facebook off the net and then you plop it inside of your organization, right? So now there's actually, if you want to go into like the big difference between those two, right? One, you own your data. You control your data. It's your environment. I only invite people outside of my organization inside of that, and all they get to see is the content that I create as an organization, or I allow my employees to create, right? So it's completely separate from Facebook. So one is the security and the data control. Then two, you have an admin level, okay, where you can create your own ecosystem. You can create as many groups as you want. You can create groups for very specific reasons. There's no limitation as far as users. There's no limitation as far as the number of groups that you create.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It becomes your ecosystem for your organization, specifically supporting the culture that you want to create inside of it.
So the idea being that I could have groups for different departments. Yep. I could have groups for, can I create groups that are specific? Because since you have the admin level, it's like role-based permissions.
Yep, absolutely. So
and then one of those roles could be a customer or a partner.
You can even bring vendors and customers in there.
Oh, interesting.
Right, because we also have the opportunity to create what we call multi-company groups. So if I have my workplace environment and you have yours, we can create a group that connects the two, but you will only see that one group. You will not see the rest of my environment.
And then similar to Facebook, in a group, I can share posts, I can share documents, I can put units in.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously a lot more, right? Because it is an enterprise focused platform. There's all these integrations that are built, right? You can integrate with Google Docs, you can integrate with SharePoint, you can integrate with anything you want. Like there's so many cool use cases that we've built already. Like we've integrated Workplace with a payroll system. So now people can, through chat, they can ask how many hours left they have time off. And then once they get the answer, they can request time off and say, okay, I want Monday to Tuesday off next week. It pushes that request to your payroll system, and HR is not even involved in that. So if at a higher level, what Workplace really wants to do is the hub for everything else. Right? We talk about work better together. And that doesn't only mean people, it also means all the platforms that we use.
So that's interesting, because I was going to ask you about that. So thank you for bringing it up, which is, what does it touch? What does it integrate with? Because you can see that there's so many potential benefits. Well, the one thing that comes to my mind, because I work a lot with Salesforce, is Salesforce has the Chatter platform. And I don't think a lot of customers realize that they automatically have Chatter built in.
Nope.
But is there an integration with Salesforce for Facebook?
You can build integrations with anything because it has an open API, and you can, through simple webhooks, you can create your own integration.
Okay.
If it wasn't already built, right? And you bring up a good point, right? So the question that often comes up is, yeah, but I already use Slack, or I already use Salesforce, or I already have Google Suite.
Sure.
But what these things, all these platforms are amazing. I use all of them.
Yep.
Right. But what has happened in the last decade is people have built solutions for very specific problems. So Salesforce solves a very specific problem around prospecting, selling, CRM, right? Google Suite solves another problem. Slack solves another problem. It's a great tool for programmers to communicate because they can share snippets and what have you, right? That's what it was built for. What Workplace wants to do is sit right in the middle of all of that and become the hub to all those different platforms. So it doesn't mean that because you're using Microsoft Teams, that Workplace wouldn't be a good solution. Because
it might be a better solution.
Well,
I'm not a big fan of Workplace of the Teams, but
yeah, well, it solves a specific problem
for sure.
Right?
You need that community element, the communication. You need that archive of everything from documents to it's kind of like a way to get your culture across too, right? Like there's an element of it. You can start thinking of the tool like.
Yeah, and if I had to say one thing for what Workplace solves, just like the other ones, right? What their focus is for Workplace, it is that community building, communication, and collaboration, right? So a lot of our clients actually use Teams, and what we've seen is as soon as we bring Workplace in, the adoption of Teams actually goes up.
Oh, interesting.
Why? Because we're sharing links to documents inside of Teams.
Right.
And now we're actually enhancing the solution that Teams brings and the problem that it solves. We're enhancing that experience because now we have a really cool chat app, and we have a really cool app with that brings us to specific groups for specific projects. And inside of those groups, we now have links to Teams, right? Because that's one of the problems with Microsoft Teams is the adoption. Like it's really.
That's because it's not a great product. Yeah. Whereas to your point, like Facebook is known, it's a very elegant technology that scales billions. To be able to take that and apply it to your Workplace is actually kind of interesting. And I was going to ask you about the Messenger experience because I think that's a big part of it. So it sounds like there is Facebook Messenger within it.
Same thing. Yeah. And then inside of that Messenger, it becomes really, really powerful when you start writing bots where you have specific conversations that are now automated. Like another example that I can give you is a construction company, right? They would have their people in the field would, at the end of the day, would have to write a report on paper. That report goes to the foreman. The foreman has to collect all of that. He comes to the office with a stack of paper. He drops it on the desk of the admin person, right? We're now a day later.
Now you got to go through and transcode it all.
And now that person has to type it all into a system. So look at the time that it takes. Now, what we did with the bots, right? They're in the field. They don't have a computer, but they have their phone. So we created a bot message. So at the end of the day, they go to that specific bot messenger inside of their chat app, and they say, I'm ready to report. And the bot says, okay, what did you work on? And this project. So then it asks a series of questions, and that data gets automatically put in the database where the company needs it, and we're done. We cut out 2 people.
Sorry to cut you off.
It's okay.
Is it using Zapier or something else to get it from the messenger bot into something else, or what are you using?
We just use webhooks. Again, it depends where you want the data to be. In this particular case, they just have it in a Google Drive, like a Google Sheet.
Okay. So
we just created a webhook that puts that data straight into that Google Sheet.
So is there, in Facebook, if I think about it from a technical point of view, there's Messenger between users.
Yep.
And then there's also Messenger associated with pages or groups, right?
Absolutely.
So
here's a cool thing. Yeah, same thing. So if you have, let's say you have a group for a specific department, right? And there's 15 people in there. Now you have a dedicated chat room for that group. And you can even start a video call on demand. Like you click a button and all 15 phones ring, and you can do like an ad hoc video call.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. That's really
it's amazing. I'm so excited and
it's like a very compelling case for it. I think it was funny because I was getting retargeted, I think, by Facebook, prompting me to try out, the workplace. It's workplace, right?
Workplace, yeah.
And I think there was just so much controversy at the time around like all the hearings and all that craziness.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said, right? There is this stigma and this story around it. But think about it this way though, Michael. Like, and I have this conversation often with when I get to inside of a sales call or the sales process, I hit against the IT department all the time, right? And they're like, well, security and this and this. So then I ask a question. And I asked him, hey, so Facebook has dedicated about 200,000 programmers to security for Facebook and Workplace. So are you telling me that your team, I don't know how many, but you're telling me that your team does a better job than the Facebook team when it comes to protecting your data?
Mm-hmm.
The conversation is over at that point because they cannot compete with that.
So it's not an on-premise model, obviously.
Nope.
It's still in the cloud, but it's like, is it like is it like your own instance of Facebook?
Yes.
And your own data.
Correct.
The admin panel, unlike, Facebook, where you are the product.
No, it's a dedicated area on the server, and you have control over it. If you want to shut it down and delete it, you can delete the whole thing and it's gone.
Wow.
Unlike Facebook where you have, you don't have control. And I don't think in this conversation, it's relevant to keep comparing it to Facebook because we would never use it anyways.
No.
Right. But it's good to know that it's supported by them, right? It's their product. It's supported by their programmers. It's supported by their infrastructure. And you touched on that a little bit earlier, right? Scalability. I mean, there's 2.3 billion users on Facebook. I never worry about Workplace being able to scale and be able to manage 10,000 employees, right?
So when you put aside the initial bias against it, you think about, well, what if I just had my own instance of Facebook as a platform? It's kind of interesting, which is that the people on it are people I work with. maybe I pay for it. There's a data model around it. I'm the administrator. I have the admin access, or you are, maybe
Yep.
Connected is. I don't know if that's part of your model.
Yep.
And then you get into, well, wait a second, you have all this functionality. Like you've
Mm-hmm.
got this functionality where there's integration with external platforms. There's an API that's very, very, like probably the most advanced API that's out there. You've got
Mm-hmm.
video, not only text, but video messaging. I didn't even think of that.
Auto translate. You got, I mean, think about this. Like you have, let's say you have some, and I have a client who's in that position, right? They have an office in Pakistan, and they have an office in Mexico, right? They're a US company, but some of their customer service people are spread over two different countries. So now when they post something, it auto translates in the language of where these people are. So now there's no language barrier anymore either.
God, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
then, is there any exposure then? Like, does Facebook see your company data, the conversation, like any of that?
No, they don't. No, you actually have to, if there's an issue and you deal with customer service,
Yeah.
you have to like share posts or let them. Yeah. I'm sure they have access to it if they want to, obviously, because the data is stored on a server somewhere, right? So they technically have access to it. But I mean, what what data is secure today, right?
I mean, it's like, layers of
Yeah, exactly.
layers of compromise.
Exactly.
I think it's interesting with the the announcements even around Facebook's change of direction a little bit for the future.
Oh yeah.
Messaging, right? So
Yeah.
even that, you can see where that's going to change a little bit. So it's like there's sacrifices for doing it this way and this way, right?
So now that you've learned about what they're doing on the workplace side, it makes sense, right? It makes sense. The things that they've announced on the Facebook side and the things that they're going to change, right? I believe that Facebook groups will probably not disappear, but they will change. They're right, because they want Facebook to become more of a personal connection platform, right? Where you and I have private conversations and we reach out to each other because that's the place where we connect, right? When it comes to groups, when it comes to membership groups, associations, organizations with employees, they're going to go towards workplace and develop that more and more, right? Yeah. So we're really at the front end of this. Like this
really, it seems like, how many companies are using this?
Well, that's the crazy thing. Like, even though we're just starting and it's interesting, I'm dealing with Facebook, but it feels like I'm dealing with a startup, right? It's very interesting. But we have 30,000 organizations using it now, and we just broke the 2 million paying users a couple of weeks ago. So we have 2 million users, 30,000 organizations. But that doesn't include non-for-profits because they get it for free.
Ah, wow. Interesting. Yeah. And then your business model around that, like, how does that work? Like, you're a partner with Facebook?
Yeah. So here, the one of the issues that they identified, just like any software platform, right? You can go to workplace.com and download or start an account.
Right.
But then what? Right. What are you going to do with this? So the layer that I add to this is I work with you on strategy, right? Because I'm a big believer in the fact that software tools need to solve a specific problem.
Right.
So often I see people, adopting software platforms. Oh, everybody's talking about Salesforce, so now I need Salesforce. Well, do you?
Maybe that's the thing. It's the same thing with us, right? Where we go in and it's like a Ferrari, but you got to have someone to tune it.
Exactly.
The wrong person,
or maybe you don't need a Ferrari. Maybe you need a bike.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That's like
Salesforce.
Yeah. So that's the first layer that I add, right? So we sit down and we come up with a strategy, because adoption of your platform is going to be based on how good your strategy is and how well it solves a specific problem.
Wow.
Right? So you can bring workplace in, but if it doesn't solve a problem for your employees, they're not going to use it. Right? It's human nature to think, what's in it for me? Right? I'll download the app, but if there's nothing in it for me, I'm not going to use it. So the first thing I do is we come up with a very solid strategy and a plan to roll it out. Then we help with the actual implementation, because oftentimes it requires integrations and creating bots and what have you. So we help with that implementation piece of it.
Yeah.
And then the last part is the management of the system, right? Because now that you have this amazing platform inside of your organization, who's going to manage all of this? Right. So, and if you think about this, right, strategy, implementation, management, those three components, you can go through that process with us, 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, or all of them.
I mean, it sounds very much like a Salesforce type engagement. Like there's,
yeah,
we got to figure out what's the business doing, what parts of this, how does the software work, and how do these things apply? So that's really interesting. It's a very exciting area, actually, when you put it, that kind of frames it a little bit. So
yeah. And ultimately, my goal is not to implement workplace. Like if you ask me what I'm passionate about and what I'm trying to accomplish, it is not to bring in another software platform.
Okay.
Right? That is just the result of what I'm trying to accomplish. Right? What I want to do for my clients is create stronger teams and elevate the experience for employees inside of your organization. Because think about it, we spend more time at work than anywhere else in our life.
Right.
Right. So let's make that a fun experience, and let's make that. I want to solve the problem of disconnected people inside of the workplace, because when I think it's like 80% of people are not happy at work.
Oh yeah.
Right. And when I found that out, I was like, you know what, I want to do something about that. I've been a business consultant my whole life, and I've always focused on revenue. Right. Mm-hmm. How can I make my client more money? But what I didn't realize was, wait a second, we need people to help us with that, right? We need our staff, our employees, our teams, we need those to be empowered and full of fire and energy to help us create that business that is profitable and grows, right? So it's, for me, it's fairly new to come to that realization. Some people may say, well, dude, like,
well, I mean, I think culture and community, especially when you have now a very disparate workspace or workforce.
Yeah.
People are investing maybe less in physical. Well, it's not entirely true, but a lot of companies are, right? Where there's definitely more tolerance of remote work.
Yep.
There's never been a platform yet. Like Slack has certainly accomplished a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of Slack. I think it's like what you say. Like if you're a developer, they like Slack, because they can do snippets of code. Yeah. Day to day, I've just never bitten on it. Like I kind of not, but I can see where.
Yeah. Again, if you have the specific problem it solves, then it's a good platform.
Whereas Facebook has that element where there's like a comfort level and an understanding of how it functions.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm doing that in a contained environment where I have control over it, that has the potential to actually be game changing, where I can absolutely have this real communication platform. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's why I resort to it as a tool and as a solution when I have a conversation about how do we bring your team closer together, right? But ultimately, that's my goal. That's my objective. That's what I'm passionate about, is to create those teams that work better together. Work better connected. That's my slogan.
I like it, because I was going to say, I like the fact you wear your t-shirt all the time.
Yeah.
I got to go get t-shirts, man.
Yeah. It's branding, my friend.
It's excellent. It's very good.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I want to be conscious of your time. So
well, thank you.
I
can talk about this for days.
Okay, good. Because I could probably too, but
yeah.
So this is a fascinating platform. How do people get in touch with you, and what's the best first step to getting connected?
Pun intended.
Pun intended.
Well, there's two things you can do. One, you can just go check out Workplace. You can actually open up a free account. It gives you like the basics, and it gives you an idea of what it looks like and what it can do. But if you want to get in touch with me, my website is www.connected without an O, CNN, connected.com. And my email address is gus@connected.com. So I'm always here to answer questions. I'll even give you my cell phone number, 714-642-2589. Because I just love talking and connecting with people, because that's what I'm passionate about. So
well, it's a fun model, and like there's a lot of opportunity here where you can do something that's unique. And I always love when that opportunity presents itself. It's like, we're in technology, so you got to look at what's next, and you want to. Mm-hmm. So this is like to me, when you really stop to think about it, it's a very short jump to making something very functional and useful. Like,
absolutely.
So, I'm going to wrap up with two things. One is, how are you, Gus, changing the world?
I'm changing the world by helping people figure out how to create an environment where people are not disconnected and are not, coming to work without any fire or passion, or they're just there to do their job and collect their paycheck. That is what I want to change, because that is just ludicrous to me. For me, that is just unthinkable. Like, I wake up and I'm excited to start the day. I love my weekends. I like to call them strong ends, not weak.
Strong ends, I like that.
But Sunday night, I start thinking about my week, and I'm just fired up.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's what I want to change in the world, because more people need to have that feeling, and more, in my opinion, more people should experience that, where they're actually subscribing to their own passion that is linked up to the company, the organization's passion that they work for. And that's how I want to change the world.
I love it. That's a great answer. Okay, so final thing that we'll wrap with is, when we have interesting people on the Automate and Grow podcast, we like you to nominate other interesting people. We usually talk to entrepreneurs and experts. So who would you, Gus, like to nominate as a guest on a future episode of the Automate and Grow podcast?
I think you should have a talk with Chris Dyer. Chris Dyer, actually, he's local. And he actually had pardon?
We're local, actually. We have to get together because we're in the same area now.
Yeah. So Chris wrote the book, The Power of Culture.
Okay.
And he has built a company with 3,000 employees. So he knows a little thing about that. That's and but he's now a speaker and an author, and he's also passionate about building culture, and he obviously has his own perspective on that. But I think that would be a great guest for you to reach out to, and I can connect you with him.
That would be great. So we will take that introduction. Chris Dyer, you've been nominated as a featured guest. Gus, thank you so much. This has been really exciting. I appreciate your time, and we definitely have to connect now that we're both in the same area.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. This has been another episode of Automate and Grow.
This has been an episode of the Automate and Grow podcast. Check out other episodes for interesting topics on how to grow, innovate, and automate your business.